Desculpa, gente. Essa é a Luisa. Eu sou André. Luisa representa a CISAC, Luisa Luna. Eu sou André Mielnik, presidente da GEDAR, e a gente está aqui para apresentar esse painel sobre o valor da criação. Esse painel vai ser apresentado em inglês, porque a gente tem a Noémie, Saglio, que é francesa, e a gente tem o Javier, Gómez, que muitos de vocês vieram aqui ver, autor da Casa de Papel, que fala espanhol. Então, para esse painel, para a gente poder ter uma interação direta, a gente vai fazer em inglês. Creio que a produção simultânea. Então, essa é a primeira, são os disclaimers. Luisa vai começar apresentando um pouco sobre a CISAC e um pouco sobre a mesa. Obrigado.
Thank you, André. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so this panel is brought to you by CISAC and GEDAR. My name is Luisa Luna, and CISAC, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are the International Confederation of Societies of Authors and Composers. We represent over 5 million creators worldwide across all artistic repertoires. And this year is a particularly meaningful one for us because we are celebrating our centenary. So for 100 years, CISAC has been defending creators' rights and advocating for the conditions that allow creators to thrive. So we are grateful for this partnership with GEDAR, with Rio2C, and to bringing Brazilian and European voices to reflect on the realities of audiovisual authors in the streaming market and the importance of ensuring sustainability for creative careers. Well, having said that, I think that we can introduce our panelists. So please join me in welcoming Javier Gómez Santander, who is a Spanish screenwriter, showrunner, and you may know him for the global phenomenon La Casa de Papel. So Javier, if you can join us on the stage.
Hello, good morning.
We also have French screenwriter, director Noémie Saglio. You may know her for works such as Amor Ocasional, Nice Girls, and Super Machos. Please join us. Hello. And last but not least, Cauê Laratta, who is the screenwriter of Pico da Neblina, The Head, and Ninguém Tá Olhando. Cauê, please join us on the stage.
Nego drama, entre sucesso e alama, dinheiro, problema, inveja, luxo, fama, nego drama, cabelo preso, da pele escura, a ferida, a chaga, a procura da cura, nego drama, não vê nada.
Okay, guys, so let's start talking about your creative journeys as screenwriters. So, behind every audiovisual work, there is a very uncertain, long, and deeply personal creative process. So, what does a typical working day as a screenwriter look like for you? So, let's start with you, Noémie.
I think maybe there's writers in the room. I don't think there is any typical day as a writer, which can seem very weird, but we are basically writing all the time. Even if I'm like with my kids, sometimes I'm thinking about my characters, and then I come back home and write for 2 hours. But it's not like you will wake up and definitely open your laptop at 9 and then start writing. Sometimes you just have to do something else, and sometimes you have meetings with other writers.
Yeah, for me, the week is one problem, another problem related with the production or whatever. Somebody told me this kind of business is like baseball. You have a stick, a problem comes to you like a ball, and you have to hit the ball, and it's another guy problem right now. This is my week, and on Saturday morning I say, okay, now I can write everything that I couldn't write. But I always try. Each morning at 9 I try to start writing, and sometimes happens, but if everything goes in a good way, you couldn't write, because problems are bigger, because your production is close, or you're producing, or you're writing, but we love this kind of things.
Yeah, I second what Noémie said about, there's no typical working day as a writer. So we're usually involved in 1 or 2 projects, and we're basically writing the whole time. Even at the end of the day, when you sit down to watch a film, you can't just shut down that little voice that is always looking for the next idea. And I don't know how it is for you guys, but to us, there's this aspect of multitasking in writing, in that you are involved in the writing of a show, but you're always kind of having to conceive the next thing and be worried about that. And so I think that juggling is a very crucial aspect of what we do.
I also want to say that as writers, we are never on holiday. I haven't been on holiday for the past 20 years as a writer, because I will always write at some point, and my characters and my storylines are always continuously moving and there with me. So I'm really jealous of people who have a day job, and when it's finished, because that never happens to us.
You feel okay, but when I am without something to think, I don't know what I have to do in my life. It's okay, what I am doing here. I am starting to ask big questions, and it's not good for mental health. So writing is better, because you are thinking about other people's problems.
Yes, so a lot of uncertainty and changes. And on top of that, you also have a lot of transformations in the industry. So, and one of those is streaming. So Javier, I think that there's no better example that illustrates the impact of streaming, such as La Casa de Papel. So, La Casa de Papel began as a local production for a Spanish audience, and it eventually became a global success. And this was propelled by Netflix investment and by the big audience that it obtained because of Netflix. But how this unexpected success, worldwide success, affected your creation and your creativity during the series and afterwards?
Oh, during series, it's a little short story about Money Heist. The first season of the first robbery, who have 2 seasons there, was in a Spanish TV channel who called Antena 3. It was a national show. Netflix isn't a thing in our world. It was an American thing and United States thing, and it's not in our market. So we was never we thought in Netflix. We go to the Antena 3 and the shows goes down, and they call us, oh, you have to cut. We still have 5 more chapters. No, you have 2 more. So we end the show in that way. We failed. And 1 year later, we was walking in the office, writer's room, in another show. The show was in Netflix for a few months, but we forget that. And we was writing there, and somebody comes, it was February, says, do you know what is happening? About what? About La Casa de Papel. What's happened with La Casa de Papel? Is the top seller disfraz, costume in Rio's Carnival. What? Our show? No, you're joking. No, look in the internet. We go to Twitter and we say, what is happening in Brazil? Yeah, and Argentina too. We were looking for Argentina. Wow, it's a crisis. And after that, all Latin America comes after few countries in the North, Africa North, and after that France, Italy, Germany, and the last country was Spain. And so at that moment, we was a successful and expected successful people, and Netflix come back and ask, okay, you can take another robbery. Everybody says, wow, so it's close, and I said, I know why we are going to the robbery. I was thinking about it last year, all the days, about I have the first chapter in my mind, I can tell you right now. So, was after that, the success in our experience in that way was a freedom thing. I always wondering about, when I was a Spanish writer or Spanish journalist making TV, the biggest question in my mind was, how will we make TV with money? I was wondering about, in the United States they have money. Wow, TV and money is a good combination for life. And in that moment we have money, so we have freedom. At the beginning when we write about Philippines, we shoot in Spain, in Toledo. It's not city there, and we wrote Philippines. In that moment we went there. So yeah, it was crazy, and in my experience, money is a good thing. this is the end of this thought.
Thank you, Javier. And yet, success doesn't necessarily remove the pressure that audiovisual creators can face sometimes. So, Noémie, you have created successful comedies that we mentioned before, Amor Ocasional, Nice Girls, and you also have created other personal and more intimate stories. And those stories took some time to evolve creatively and also to be financed. So, what happens to storytelling when you don't have the time and the stability to properly develop a project? And instead you feel the pressure of you need to accept any deal or sell whatever in order to just survive.
So we were speaking about that yesterday. In our industry, failures are really more frequent than success. Sometimes failures become success, which is what happened to Casa del Papel. It was not so big on Spanish TV, and then it was huge somewhere else. So once some of your national failures become big hits somewhere else, and it's nice to know, you're like, okay, this didn't work in France, but it worked very well in Latin America and Brazil, which was for me a big shock when they spoke about Nice Girls, who didn't work in France. And basically, you need, I mean, he said he's working at 3 projects at the same time. I'm working on 12, because there's so many that will end up in the bin, and that I will have spent so much time trying to make happen, but you never know what's gonna be developed by a channel or a platform. You never know what's gonna become a feature film, a series. Sometimes you spend a lot of time, especially right now, transforming a series into a film, a film into like a podcast. I mean, we never know where our stories will end, and we need that time to be able to change things and to like reflect. But as a French girl who is very lucky to have copyright, I still have to work on 12 projects to make ends meet, like in a nice way, because I do love money too. And I have 3 kids, and as Virginia Woolf said, to be a writer, you need a room to yourself and a little money on the side. And I think that's like the way I understand copyright. For me, sometimes I'm like about to accept to write more Bibles just to make the money of the Bible. I'm not really like I'm gonna write the Bible and try it, but also because I need like a little cash, and that's the easiest way. And I don't think that's good for my storytelling or my creativity. That's not the way I should choose projects, because projects take time. Like all my biggest projects have taken like 5, 6, 10 years. And sometimes they don't work in the end. But I needed to go all the way to see that. Sometimes they even go on screen as a feature film, and it's a huge failure, which happened to me last year. And it was horrible. It was a very expensive film, and everybody believed in it, and nobody went in the movie theater. And then it takes a year to come back to the industry, because nobody answers your calls. You're like, hey, I've done a lot. I've done 6 features and 3 series. Answer my call. And they're like, yeah, but you suck. Like, your last project didn't work. On this time, you really live on copyright for a year. And you're like trying to create more stuff and to create the stuff that they will answer your calls for. And that's survival. But it's also the chance to continue doing what you love and not accepting projects just for the money. And it makes the projects better. It's not only about like writers' survival, it's about continuing to make great projects and put them on screen and not like be too quick, too, you know, I don't know, industrial or too commercial. I mean, I do commercial stuff. That's what I want to do. I want a lot of people to watch my films and series, and I don't think any writer wants to do something that nobody sees. So that's not even in question, but we need a little help to continue creating well.
That's it. And well, these challenges are faced globally by audiovisual creators. They can be even more severe in countries where creators lack a strong legal framework, such as Brazil. So, Cauê, you have created several series that have traveled internationally, that have showcased the strength and the creativity of the Brazilian storytelling. So, when you were developing those projects, what realities of being a creator in Brazil shaped your work and your career, not only in financial terms, but also in terms of stability, recognition, authorship, visibility?
I think the best way to illustrate that is by telling the opposite story, because I had the opportunity to work for an international show, and it was just such an eye-opening experience, because I was at this show and we wrote the show. It went into post-production, and as it was about to go on air, the showrunner called me and he said, look, we're going to register the show here in Spain at Dama, and we're going to register you as one of the authors, because that's what you did. And in my innocence, I was like, okay, like, do I have to pay anything? And he was like, no, this is your right. Like, we're going to put your name in there. And I'm like, fine, go ahead. So the show goes on air, and a couple of months later, I receive an email, which is like, hey, there's some money for you here. And I'm like, what the hell? Is this a scam? What is going on? And so you receive, like, there's these amounts, there's a report, like, there's this amount to collect from France and from Portugal and from whatever. So I called the showrunner, I'm like, is this how this works? And he says, yeah, and you're gonna get another email like that in like 3 months or so, and for the rest of your life, as long as the work is broadcast and is bringing revenue to the platform.
And then your kids.
And then, at that moment, I was like, oh, this is how screenwriters are supposed to make a living. This is how it happens everywhere. And in Brazil, I thought maybe it was my fault, but no, we're just playing this game on hard mode for since the beginning. And it's absolutely crazy when it stops to think about it. Because not having that kind of scaffolding to help us get by it has all of these very corrosive consequences, not only for screenwriters, like the people, but for an entire industry, in my opinion, that relies on those creations. Like, we are at the very foundation of this industry. And yet we are so unprotected in Brazil. It's unbelievable. So I think that's, we're trying to get this message across, because I think it's urgent and it's crucial if you want to create a healthy, industry here.
And what you're describing is not only an individual experience, but rather a broader structural reality here in Brazil. So, André, before you became GEDAR president, you were already a screenwriter and producer, but your career started to move progressively toward production. So, can you tell us about the economic realities that explain that shift in your career?
Yeah, that story is a story that brings me here, because for me as a screenwriter, getting my feet into position and trying to, getting in stance and getting by, it's very hard in your first 10 years, because you are writing and you are putting your stories out there, and especially here you're not quite remunerated by the ideas itself. It's by the work. It's by writing something that, or either a production company is greenlighting or a commission from a platform. So those moments when you're writing and creating this idea that you want to sell, that you want to put out there, that is not counted as something of value. It's not tangible here. Either because there's not enough money in development, but mostly because the credits are quite meningless and worthless in such a manner that sometimes we have to dispute who is the writer in a room, because a director could be saying, well, but I gave a lot of ideas and we changed the whole story, so I should be signing as a creator. And the producer would say, yeah, that note that I gave really turned the story around. But none of those guys were in the room writing. They would give insight. It's amazing to have insight, but you have to write it and you have to test it and you have to go into that, world of a blank page where, anything and nothing is possible. And then that took me to a place where I said, okay, I need to have some control over this. I have to produce my own shows, or I have to get a structure in production so I can, get by. And so, of course, to be a good producer, you have to really, put your mind into it. And so it goes. My last 8 years of my life was to be a producer. And then the whole scenario of being a part of the Screenwriters Association, which is ABRA, and getting to GEDAR was a way of contributing for the writers to not be in this position and to, having that, skin in the game. I know what it is. And that's what brings us here, because what we are trying to say is that this is not like welfare for screenwriters, It's not, because it seems like, okay, I'm receiving this money because I need to have, my quiet time to create. It's not about that. It's about taking risk and getting out there and selling your stuff, as anyone here is doing. But you have to get by, you have to have a living. And sometimes you have successes, and what happens is that those successes are not being, there's no remuneration for you here in Brazil, but in France and in Spain there is. So it brings us to, have Noémie and have Javier here as people that can, have their own time to produce great stories, present those stories, and, really take the risk to, it's pretty much in the public interest that the creator have that time. Because if it's for the executives, and I know it's a huge, huge risk for them as well, they will try to make something that they know is going to work. The creator is going into the unknown. He's going for something that he doesn't know it's going to work, but he feels it's important to tell.
Also, we never know what's going to work, so...
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in this room, in this industry, will know that a recipe will work. If it did, I think we would do that all day, but we don't know. We try. So.
And nowadays with the data, I mean, algorithms is telling us the story that we need to tell, but sometimes, you know, he knows only the extent of what was created. What is not created, the algorithm doesn't know. And that's where we lie. That's our playground.
And then there are some testimonies from other Brazilian audiovisual authors that you wanted to share with us.
Let's do that. Thank you, Luisa.
Em geral, a maior parte dos roteiristas no Brasil ainda vive muito na contratação de projeto a projeto. Então, a gente está terminando uma história agora, pensando, mergulhada nela, apaixonada, mas preocupada com, mas mês que vem, o que eu vou fazer? Acho que a primeira vez que eu li, né, um contrato de uma plataforma, eu fiquei com muito medo. Eu falei assim, nossa senhora, parece que eu estou, né, assim, todos os direitos para eles e nenhum direito para mim.
A gente achou que o investimento que veio de streaming ia também conseguir gerar mais empregos para os roteiristas e não foi bem o que aconteceu.
40% dos roteiristas brasileiros receberam menos do que um salário mínimo em 2024. O Ministério Público investiga possíveis irregularidades na contratação de roteiristas por plataformas de streaming no Brasil. O Brasil ainda não tem uma lei que reconheça o direito de roteiristas a serem remunerados pela exibição de seus trabalhos.
Em todos os contratos que eu já fiz na minha vida aqui no Brasil, eu nunca tive direitos de... Eu nunca recebi nada em função do sucesso do filme, nunca. Então, eu sinto uma espécie de... quase de vergonha, sabe? De um sentimento assim, triste, com o fato de que, para eu ser reconhecido como autor na Europa, porque sou membro de uma associação arrecadadora da Espanha, que tem convênio com vários países da Europa, ali eu tenho uma coisa que eu não tenho no meu próprio país.
Apenas 27,5% dos roteiristas brasileiros podem viver exclusivamente do seu trabalho.
Já existem artistas que recebem direitos autorais do audiovisual, como os músicos, por exemplo. Então, isso não quebrou a indústria. Nunca. O nosso também não vai quebrar. E eu garanto, com roteiristas mais bem remunerados, os nossos filmes, as nossas séries vão ficar melhores ainda. A gente vai conquistar mais público e todo mundo vai ganhar mais dinheiro. Eu tenho certeza disso.
Ela parece uma coisa pequena, mas ela não é pequena, né? Porque é realmente reconhecer o trabalho de um autor, de um roteirista, né? O quanto ele está no centro da criação de uma obra, né? Se o mundo inteiro está vendo o nosso cinema, o mundo inteiro está se apaixonando pelo que a gente produz. E o mundo inteiro está valorizando o nosso trabalho. A gente tem que fazer isso também.
This is a quite revealing situation. So, Cauê, Brazil is one of the world's leading streaming market, and its audiovisual sector has experienced a strong international visibility. So how could the introduction of a meaningful legal protection could contribute not only to creators' conditions, but also strengthening the sustainability, the diversity, and the growth of the industry itself?
I think in a number of ways. The lack of that kind of protection and that kind of mechanism to collect those rights, I think it has a lot of consequences. I'm going to mention just three here, which I think are the most important. The first one is that I think being a screenwriter in Brazil, you really have to deal with like a mental load, which is insane because it's so unpredictable. Like it's really unstable. And I mean, it's 2026, we have to talk about mental health. So I will bring this one here because I know the conversations I have with my peers. So I think it's important. The second one, like André said, is that we become risk averse, and I think this is horrible for the industry. I think it's the same thing Braulio was saying here, because if you don't know when you're getting your next paycheck, you are forced to basically finish one project and immediately begin the next project. And you're not going to have time to go search for that original, like that next big thing, that thing you were obsessed about, or to do some research on the side or some soul searching and really go farther than people expect to bring more original ideas into the industry. You're just going to say yes to the next thing that comes to you because you have to pay your bills. I mean, we are human beings here. So I think that's horrible for the writer, but for the industry it's terrible. And a third consequence that I think I have to bring here is that if the job of being a screenwriter is so unstable and unprotected, one of the consequences that has is that it becomes a profession for the elite. Because who can really afford to be a screenwriter in Brazil if not people who come from a privileged background? If you're so unprotected, like if we really want the demographics of our country to be represented on screen, and if we really want, multiple voices and diversity, we need this job to allow for people to make a living. And right now, people who can afford to be screenwriters are often people who can afford to go for like 2, 3, 4, 6 months without receiving any money because there's no mechanism to compensate you for previous works. And honestly, I think that's horrible. It goes against everything that we want to build in this industry.
André, do you want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea about authors' remuneration, it's based on a French legislation from the 18th century. The idea is very old and quite unique. The whole idea is for you to have the works circulating and the artists sustained enough for them to make more art, for the art to get to the public, for culture to be sustainable as well. And what happens is this right is going to some countries, and some countries it is not going. Like in Colombia, for instance, it passed in 2018, I guess. In Argentina, it's been up 100 years. In France, more than that. And you see how the French market for screenwriters and authors and directors is so strong, and in Spain as well, because you see that the creators are sustained enough for them to create enough new ideas and share that risk with the shareholders, the companies, the platforms that have to buy their projects, because they know that their project gets to their hands more mature and well thought than a storyline or a log line or on one page, or something more that you need to work upon and really. So that is the big difference, I would say, for us to fully understand the whole idea of author's right and the right of remuneration. That is something for the public. It's not something only for the screenwriter. The screenwriter is the medium, but the end is the public. The end is the general culture. I think it's...
Yes, for me, we are talking about rights. It's not another word, it's rights. It's not something you can deal in a contract or You can fight for that. It's yours. What does it mean? We are creators. Before us, there is nothing on the table. Nothing at all. We come from the darkness with something in our hands. And what is this? This is ours? No. This is we. When I have a story, it's not my story. It's a part of me. This is a creator thing, and this is why this is a right. Because the whole industry works with my feelings, with my experience, with my past, with my characters. Behind my characters, I am behind my characters. She is behind her characters. And everybody works with his own feelings and the way you love or you feel or you live. So we are like a big petrol bag, and they are Petrobras. Yeah, they are drying you, but you are human beings. It's the difference with this. And this is why you have to be paid in one hand. And in the other hand, you have to be paid. This is a political way, and political have to protect your people. No? But this is another hand. This is a good thing for the industry too. Because it's a good thing pay us for this kind of rights, because this is a thing that we are talking about all the time, but it's another word is important, is justice. And will you work again in an industry that is not justice with you? When I finished Money Heist, I had to spend the next 2 years lying on a bed because I have a medical condition. And I was in a very bad way. I had wrote a very big success, and after that, if I'm a Brazilian guy writing a Brazilian show, I have nothing. And I had to be 2 years in the bed. It's not the function of the rights and the payments, but it was good too for me, and it was important. Everybody was making a big money with that show, and we have a small piece of this money. If we were writers and you write a book and you sell one book, okay, you have this money. But if you sell 1 million, you have the same money? Really? Yeah.
So, Noémie, you come from a system where this remuneration right exists, and it is managed through a collective management society, in your case, the CISAC. So, what economic impact have royalties had in your ability to sustain your creative career over time?
I mean, what Javier said is exactly what I think. It's basically success makes you want to make more success, so the whole industry is working better from this copyright existence. Because I think as writers, as I was saying, we want to do successes, but especially if they will continue making us sustain natural, okay way of life, so that we can continue creating, trying, taking risks. All together, I mean, it's not like, oh my God, we're gonna have to pay for copyright, and I'm this big industry person from whatever, like, platform or channel. It's more like, okay, what can we do so that our writers can bring us success and we can all make money together and for a long time. And I think that's the gist of it, and that's what, I can't remember his name, the guy from City of Gods. I have problems with his name. Say it's not like platforms and producers against writers, it's everybody together trying to make a success and trying to live from it for a few years is not, I mean, it's not, it would, for me, it's, I wouldn't have survived without the SACD. Sometimes I'm like on my bed, dying from like bad critics and saying, okay, I'm changing jobs, I'm not gonna do that anymore, it's too hard, and I have no money, and this month I have nothing, and then I receive a sudden like thing from something I wrote 5 years ago, and it went on this TV in Africa at like 22 p.m. and then it's like, oh, okay, that's nice, and I have like a nice way of paying rent, and I'm like, okay, and it means to me more than the money. It means, okay, you exist, and actually what you did continues to be seen and to exist, and it's so important for me as a writer to continue to be able psychologically to continue doing this job. I mean, it's a great thing.
Can I just jump on this for a second? Because I think you touch on such a central point, which is the mentality we have here. Because it's almost like this us against them thing. It completely misses the point. Because, I think we all love to say, the creator economy. Oh, it's a creator economy. Wow, guys. The creator economy, if you want it to work, you have to value the creator. It's kind of like in the center of it. And so there's this feeling that like writers are kind of like a liability, when they're really an asset. Like it's one of the most important assets you can have is a writer. So like we should invest in writers and creators and allowing them to have comfortable, enough conditions to create, because they're going to bring back better ideas, and the whole industry is going to gain from that. It goes to the financial aspect, but also to the credits and media and whatnot. Because you take a show like Pluribus, for instance. I mean, amazing premise. Vince Gilligan is amazing, all that. But I am absolutely sure that show gets a lot of traction because it is marketed as from the creator of Breaking Bad. And so forefronting that guy is an investment, So, and I think we kind of missed the point in doing that here, because we have such amazing creators, I'm sure when, Eduardo Melo and Mari Bardan, they create their next show, it's going to be amazing, but it's going to get a lot of traction because it's from the creators of Cangaço Novo, it's a huge global hit. So we really need to change that mentality and start seeing creators as crucial assets and allies in this industry.
I want to jump in and just explain something that maybe it's missing from the whole equation. Is that the users are the ones that would pay this right of remuneration, and this right of remuneration is a deal done with each user from done with usually with a collective management organization as GEDAR or the BCA, and it will be collected and distributed to the authors according to the amount of times that their works circulated in that country from that user. So I know that there's a lot of precarity in production nowadays. A lot of people are struggling, and so just to put it out there, it's not a producer's job to pay for this. It's not a producer's job to pay for the right of remuneration for the author. It's a user's. It goes from gross revenues from the users. It's a deal that is done very carefully with the users, and so this whole idea is important for us to understand what we're dealing here, because we're talking about the benefits of it, but we're not talking about the structure of it. So this is the structure, just to put it out there.
So we have gathered from this conversation different points. On one side, Brazilian audiovisual industry is traveling internationally, is gaining a massive international visibility. Brazilian works are going far beyond Brazilian borders. On the other side, we've seen this migration from the region, as you mentioned, André, Chile, Uruguay, Colombia, are countries that have recently been migrating towards a more protective legal framework. And we've also seen that Brazil remains short in terms of the framework that it proposes to its creators and to protect them. So I understand that right now Brazil is in a pivotal point in terms of changing that. So what would you say to policymakers and industry leaders about the importance of ensuring that Brazilian creators are not left behind this global evolution. And this is a question to you all, so I don't know who wants to start. Cauê.
I can jump in and just say that, as Javier said, we have to, and Cauê and Noémie as well, said we have to look at examples of success stories that derive from the rights of narration being implemented in a territory. And in Brazil we have that with the music. And I see that we kind of naturalize a bit. It's like we kind of expect that I don't know, a huge pop star is gonna make a new hit because it's natural for them to make a new hit, but they make a new hit because they are getting paid to do that. Not from the record company, which is a failing business nowadays. Not everywhere, but I mean, it's not the same as it was, as it is in the film business as well. So they're getting paid, they have the remuneration, so they have the time and the crew and the whole structure to make a new hit. And we have one of the most vibrant, music industries in the world. Like, we, different from the film business, most music that we hear in Brazil, that listen in Brazil, are Brazilian music. On the other side, 97% of the catalogs from the platforms that we watch in Brazil, with, of course, rights holders. I'm not talking about YouTube and Meta, I'm talking about Netflix, Warner, and so on. Are from catalogs of foreign works. We are much more used to watching those foreign works because those foreign works are getting better every year. We have a relationship with the authors, with the talents, and that's the reason, because there's a structure behind the creator. And so that's my message. We have to really understand the difference and understand where can we get. We are already in such a great place, in the creator environment, and how we develop and present great works to the audiences in Brazil. Imagine what we can do once we have the right of remuneration. So that's my message, and that's it. That's my message to the policymakers.
Continue with me. Okay. I think we are the smallest guys in this business. We are at the beginning of the process. We are writing, and if you are executive producer, you continue with your write, but it's not necessary. Maybe you finish your work and your problems before the others started. So they made us invisible people. So this is the key frame. I think is why the writers don't have more power in this industry, because we solve our problems at the beginning of the process, before other people start having problems. So this is the first thing, and I think we have to feel stronger, and we have to take the power in this industry, become producers, like us, become a producer, because we have to continue writing and taking the power in the soul. Rights are in this way too. In Spain we have DAMA. DAMA is the association of the, entidad o asociación or lo que sea, where I belong and take my rights. DAMA is not only this thing, it's a place for us. It's an office, very big office. It's a place where we can meet together, make meetings with people, or we can, write the rooms there, you can watch your work there. You need a glasses, DAMA bring money for you, or a computer, or your chair in your house for working. And they pay for everything, and they build a community. It's important, this community, writers community, because we have to speak with other people who is living the same things that we are, the same problem, and dealing with the same contract. Because we are small. and did build a biggest society. We have to feel in that way. This is another thing that I think is very important for us and share our thoughts.
Yes, I just want to add, so I'm also a director, but I'm very involved in my screenwriting, and I write with a lot of screenwriters. I never write alone, and I always bring up like my co-writers are so important, because people don't realize, and you've said it, but the script, the final script of a series or a film is what everybody after will be concentrated on. I mean, the props person, the actors, the editor, the producer, the director, I mean, everybody is going to be only on this text, on this like paper that went out of a writer's mind. I mean, can you imagine? This is gold. Like, I don't even understand how screenwriters could be badly treated, because it's the goal that everybody's gonna jump on and that the whole film or series will be based on. This is like the Bible of, actually it's called the Bible mostly, but this is the Bible of a film or a series. Like, how can you imagine not getting a little bonus from a success, or not even a bonus, but just the fact that, oh, this like was there on this TV in this country and I'm getting a little money. That's fun. Like, because the thing you created from your mind is what made the product happen. And you want it to be a success, and everybody is together for making it a success. There's no like writer against producers, it's everybody together, but the script is everything. So it has to sustain something, no?
I feel such a strong urge to answer that question in Portuguese, you know, it should go out to Congress or something, you know, so can I, do you guys mind? Eu acho, você conversa com um estrangeiro e você fala sobre o Brasil, e a primeira coisa que a pessoa fala quando ela pensa no Brasil é a nossa cultura. O Brasil é um gigante cultural. Me aponta em um país que tem uma cultura mais forte que a nossa. Vou esperar aqui sentado. E eu acho insano que a gente esteja décadas atrasado em termos de proteger os nossos autores do audiovisual. Décadas atrasados. É absolutamente insano um país que é uma potência cultural como o nosso, um país que é uma potência da indústria cultural. A gente tem a segunda maior base de assinantes do mundo. E a gente tem um congresso que está de costas para essa indústria, que está fingindo que não está vendo nada. E honestamente, acho que cansa um pouco nós roteiristas carregarmos essa bandeira, porque, como a gente falou aqui, como o Braulio falou, isso não vai quebrar a indústria, isso vai fortalecer a indústria. Essas leis fortaleceram a indústria cinematográfica da Espanha, fortaleceram a indústria de audiovisual da França. Então, o que a gente está pedindo não é apenas justo, porque é uma fração de uma remuneração de algo que é criado por nós, mas é algo que faz sentido enquanto pensamento de investimento de indústria. E eu acho que o Brasil, sendo uma potência, está na hora das plataformas começarem a levar essa mensagem para frente, está na hora do legislativo começar a escutar essa mensagem, porque não dá para a gente carregar essa bandeira sozinho, né, André?
Não, total.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, back to English.
Well, thank you very much for sharing these personal views. I think that it showcased where we are now in Brazil and where we want to go, and that there's possibility, and that we have some examples and some references of how to make things work. So I'd like to thank you all for your participation. Thank you to the audience too. Any final thoughts, remarks before we close this?
Just like to say this is a very historical moment for us as a collective management organization to be having this discussion here at this amazing space that Rio2C is providing us, and to have you as an audience. It's so important for us to get this message along. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here to listen to us and to listen to our friends here that kindly come and gave their testimony on how this is such an important aspect of their lives as creators. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you do as Cauê said and spread this message along, and let's discuss it more, because this is 20 years in the making as a work from the CMOs. The music gave them 50 years, the composers, the musicians, 50 years in this fight here in Brazil. So it's a very long struggle, and we really need help from this message to get to everyone that is concerned about it, or that feels that it can change the way we do business here in Brazil. So thank you so much.